Hello, everyone. It's great to be posting another discussion here. Michael and I are going to be recording some conversations where I get to sort of bombard him with questions that he's not prepared for, which is fun for me. And hopefully I become a better interviewer for you as these continue. So I'm lucky that I've been to Michael's house many times, and I'm always surprised at just how many objects there are that in he and Susanna's home, and that they maintain all of this. And if you've ever been there, they maintain this beautifully by themselves, and while both being very, very busy with work and family and teaching. So this is my attempt at learning from Michael about how to regard taking care of your home from a Buddhist perspective. So I hope you enjoy, and please reach out if there are any topics you're interested in hearing about. All right, so my topic, what I want to talk about is your house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So when I met you about 13 years ago, two things struck me as surprising. Like, this is a Buddhist teacher. So one was the way you talk, very free flowing. But your house, if we skip past the part that it's beautiful, beautiful house, it is not a minimalist house. It is full. So to me, when you walk in, there are floor to ceiling books. I mean, beautiful windows, and it's all very, very, very lovely, very nicely arranged. But there's so many objects, so many shelves. Everything's very carefully arranged. As far as I know, there's at least 2 shrine rooms, many, many rooms, because there's another house across the property. Right. So there's 2 buildings. There's 2 shrine rooms, many, many, many different rooms. Lots of cupboards, many, many dishes, tons of books, tons of plants to keep care of, tons of flowers, several pets walking around.
Well, I only have one. I lost my one kitty.
You do not have a staff.
No.
You are not retired, and you have many, many, many activities.
Right. Okay.
So in my house, I have one of those drawers where everything is in.
Right.
So tape is in there. There's a Leatherman in there. There's another Leatherman in there. There's some batteries. I think some of them are dead batteries. So there began an idea that stuff would be in their own correct thing. But this is not the case anymore. Stuff kind of goes in and falls in. So the topic is around that, and not just the basic of how in the world do you maintain all that, but more like why.
Uh-huh.
Because you could choose to say, I'm going to live in a simple apartment so that I can travel the world. I can do all these conferences. I can do all these one-on-one meditation instructions, and I won't have a lot of house and things to take care of. But as far as I can see, you are the opposite way.
Right. Well, there's a few pieces there. One is there are many, many art objects in my house. I think you may have noticed that. Paintings everywhere. And there's reason for that. I mean, I love art. And frankly, Susanna and I, my wife, we enjoy collecting art. However, the reason why that's the case is because her father is a famous painter. So that in and of itself, you have his art coming into our world. So if you go around, you'll see Richard Lack's pieces, portraits of her mother, landscapes. And for people who know about classical realism, her father's pretty famous. He's a good painter, but he's more famous because of the school that he created, the Lack Atelier. And there are many great masters, painters, Western painters that have come out of his training. So anyway, you inherit art. Now, secondly, I have 3 friends. One is Walt Hughes. People don't maybe know who Walt is, but he is another master painter of the Brandywine School. I grew up with Walt, and I have Walt paintings. I mean, and they're there. I love looking at them, and so you have them. I also have a friend by the name of Woody Blagg, who's another artist from the Philadelphia Academy of Fine Arts, who I have Woody's work. So, and I can go on, but then there's Ellie, who's another great graphic artist. And then to make matters even more interesting, my really, really good friend is Steve McCurry, who you know who Steve is. Maybe some of the people in the audience know. He's probably one of the top 20 photographers ever. And Steve is very generous with his prints, and I have several of his prints. So I'm blessed. I'm blessed with a community of friends who are really accomplished artists, and we have their art, and we enjoy having that. And Susanna also comes from a family where there's art all over the walls. So that would be number one. Number two is the library that you see there is quite a curated library. It's not a minor, that's not just any books up there. That library was curated over probably, and that's only a small part of the library, that was curated over almost 45 years by you. I think you met John Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah. John is, while he has a hoarding tendency, he also has curated books in the Jungian area, mythology, poetry, and also Buddhist Shinglong textbooks that you wouldn't normally be able to get a hold of. About half of that library, most of that library, we got rid of. Quite frankly, a lot of the books you had access to. So what you're seeing on the wall is the best of the best of a library of around 20,000 books. Now I also have out in storage another maybe 8,000 books. Each no, that's not true. It's more like 1,000 books. I'm sorry, about 1,000 books that are on average each one's worth around $500.
Mm.
Right. So what do I do with this? John got old, he had to go into a hospital type setting. And I have these books. So I'd like to give them to Naropa University at some point if they'll take them. I don't know if people want books anymore, but it's a highly curated spiritual collection. So once again, I'm blessed with, a friend who kind of moved that toward me.
Mm.
Now, I'll make two more points, and it sounds like I'm making excuses for myself, but I'll get to my responsibility here in a minute. The other one is flower arranging. That's something that I really did learn from Rinpoche, Trungpa Rinpoche, is the having fresh elegance in your home. So we have that tokonoma there where we do flower arranging, and I have a couple areas where we do flower arranging. So that also has a quality of richness. So when you come in, you're like, dude, what's all these flowers doing here? And then finally, I do have this obsession with this thing called Buddhism, right? So,
right.
I do buy objects, and I have quite a collection of thangkas and objects that I will give away. In fact, I'll give them to you at some point.
Okay. Thank you.
You're going to end up getting some of this stuff. So, yeah, I mean, there is some kind of a acquisitive element to this. And, I've been fortunate to make a good living. So I can afford to take care of these paintings and books and my friends' art. Almost all of it has come to us rather than me having to purchase it. I mean, obviously my friends are artists and I try to help them. But so I don't know, did that help answer why I'm in such a what kind of a robust setting of objects?
But it looks like it takes a tremendous effort to go around and take care of all these things, because most of them appear to be on site, viewable, and there's no pile of anything.
That's
as far
right.
as I can.
That's right. Everything is arranged. Everything is arranged properly. That's correct. So you have it. Yep.
But there's no place where there's a bunch of socks in a pile.
That's correct. That's correct.
So how did you get? I assume, hopefully, you weren't always like that.
Well, no, I do believe that for me personally, I've always had some level of precision. Now, for most of my life, I guess, not most of my life, I would say through my mid 30s, I didn't have, particularly before 30, I was poor. I was just a poor kid in New York, working at Columbia and living in a small apartment, and having nothing. Very little savings. I think I had $2,000 or something, which I spent to go to seminary. So I never really had much, and I never really cared that much about it. I mean, I work. I'm not afraid to work hard, and I do work very hard. So I always had a job. I always had income. I always had insurance, uh, and I used my money as to the level that I had it. So I couldn't go to really great restaurants, but I always had a nice meal with my friends. I mean, that kind of thing. So I always lived within my means. Like I never ever used credit cards, like overspend things. But as I became more successful in my career, I was able to purchase homes, and
Hmm.
I had to buy a car. So I have cars. And then working at the level I did in corporate, having a proper kind of uh, clothing was important. So I would have suits. But then I got spoiled. Here's how I got spoiled. One of the great part of my job as a corporate executive, human resources person, is I would be recruiting senior people, CEOs of companies. And Simon Schuster owned many companies, or as senior vice presidents, head of sales, creative people, and you have to bring them out to dinner, to
Hmm.
a nice restaurant. So
Yeah.
I got to enjoy. Now I worked hard at those things. I had to recruit these people and make them want to come and work for us. But I was my job had a certain level of cachet where I was able to enjoy the best of the city. So I'd say I'm spoiled. Yeah, I think so. But I'm not afraid of having nothing, frankly.
I'm not saying you're spoiled,
Well, I probably
but you're.
am.
So there's one view, right, of taking care of a home, trying to make a beautiful space to live in, and then maybe me noticing, oh, maybe you're supposed to do this with kind of your appearance and clothing too, and then try to make yourself presentable. And I remember one time I had a car which is kind of old that I liked, but you're like, you're supposed to have a nice car.
I said that to you?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
if you're gonna have a car, it should have a nice car.
Right. Mhm.
So this extends to everything. It sounds like.
Okay, let me clarify this. And this is extremely important. The issue isn't so much that you need to have an expensive car. What it means is that how you arrange your life, whether it's transportation, clothing, your bedroom, your bathroom, your kitchen, how you arrange your life, by definition, if you give in to your deepest impulse and curate that impulse and develop it, by definition, it will be elegant. Elegant. Elegance from the point of view of how it resonates with your world, that it invites your world, it provokes curiosity, it can soothe someone's heart and mind, it can nourish someone's spirit. It doesn't create a cacophony of disorientation for people. It might even inspire nobleness in someone else. It might provoke playfulness. All what elegance does. So when I say you better have a nice car, it doesn't mean like you better have a Lexus or some, not the Lexus is a good car and it's well engineered. The engineering that goes into a Lexus is very, very deep
Mhm.
versus if some of the go back and buy a 1975 Plymouth. I mean, that's just stupid, wasteful engineering.
Mm.
So my point is if you're going to arrange your world, do it elegantly. Doesn't have to be expensively, but do it elegantly. I guess that's what I'm trying to get at when I say silly things like you better have a nice car or something.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think related, just there was a time I went and did a Datsun, which is led by Acharya Ferguson. I remember I was kind of the last one out one day, and I noticed he always appeared very elegant to me. Um, he when the session was over, he was on the floor. Um, there was like a loose nail, I think,
Uh-huh.
and he was like noticing and then getting a tool and like trying to get it out. And I'm like, he's putting this whole thing together because he was managing the staff and the people and that would be leading the meditation, doing the lectures, and then afterward, not saying, somebody take care of that nail, right? He's there actually doing it. So it seems like maybe it's just in our lineage of Trungpa Buddhist practice, or maybe there's another point you'll bring to me, but it really seems like a lot of things are that I come across that I'm annoyed by in my house or whatever that I have to take care of. I'm like, I have to, once again, slow down and be patient. And this is a DIY situation. Like, you have to do the work yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's something for you to consider. When at the core of why we even have to do this practice, why are we sitting meditation and journeying on the very core of this is this panic, right? We've talked about this, that this isn't working out, right? This isn't working out. I got athlete's foot, or my wife won't return my call, or whatever. Now, what happens because of that panic, we react, which is what creates samsara. Now, one aspect of that reaction is that the phenomenal world increasingly is viewed as a threat, right? It's like, what's that going to do to me now? Is that person going to take that from me? Is that bus going to run over me? Is that job going to fire me? Is that person not going to return my call? And we begin to relate with the world as if it's an alien experience that is threatening at a very fundamental level, that creates this kind of highly guarded anxiety about being human. And that grows into nuclear weapons and stuff. We all know what it looks like. Now, the issue is when we begin to tame our minds, we begin to actually open to the situation unconditionally. And we do notice that the situation is never 100% hospitable. It isn't, including death, I just was with an old friend who lost 2 of her children to MS.
Wow.
That's slow death, watching 2 of your children die to MS. That's serious territory. That's scary stuff, terrifying stuff. So my point is that we begin to, when we're brave enough to open to our world, we begin to notice that it's never 100% hospitable. But we might notice that the entire situation is our home, that we're home here, that the earth is our home. Now, why is that a good metaphor? Because when you're in your home and a window breaks, you don't go, what the fuck? F that window. Call the police. That window should behave itself. No, you go, I got to fix the window. It's my house. When you spill wine on the floor, you don't call the police. You don't get a lawyer. You don't get a gun and point a gun at it. You go, geez, there's wine on that. I have to take care of my world. I have to take care of my world. So difficulties no longer are a threat. They're an invitation to take care of your world when you have a home. Well, if you expand that out and you notice that the whole planet is your home, what these inhospitable experiences are less a threat and more an invitation to take care of your world. That's the Bodhisattva. The Bodhisattva understands that. And he or she begins to relate with the world as our home. I have a child that has MS. This is my home. Take care of my child. Walk down the street and you see trash on the street. You don't go, yeah, fucking assholes around here don't take care of shit. I hate the world. You pick up the trash. You take care of your home. You don't get angry at your world. Does it make sense?
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that talk on elegance and how to regard your world with Michael Carroll. Please check us out at thewisdomseat.org and reach out if there's any other topics you're interested in or any questions you have in general. We'll be happy to address them. Take care.